At some point during the private school admissions journey, many parents begin asking a deeper question. Not just how the admission process works, not just what scores might be needed, but something more personal. They begin wondering, is private school actually the right choice for my child? And interestingly, the answer is often very different from what families expect when they first begin researching schools. Sometimes this question appears quietly. A parent might be researching schools online late at night. They might be attending an open house. They might be talking with another family whose child already attends a private school. And somewhere in the middle of those conversations, the question begins to take shape. Would this environment actually be better for my child? Or are we simply assuming that private school must automatically be the better option? These are thoughtful questions, because choosing a school environment is one of the most important decisions families make during a child's academic journey. And while private schools can offer wonderful opportunities, the truth is that private school is not automatically the best fit for every student. Today, I want to explore how families can begin thinking about that decision more clearly. In this video, we'll talk about how to evaluate whether a private school environment actually fits your child, the difference between prestige and real school fit, and a few signs that often suggest a student may thrive in a private school setting. Because when families start thinking about school fit early, the admissions process becomes much more thoughtful and much less stressful. Welcome to Admissions Insights. I'm Crystal Stone. Each week, I share reflections and patterns I'm seeing from families navigating private school admissions, so you can approach the process with more clarity, confidence, and calm. Because when families are trying to figure all of this out on their own, the process can feel confusing very quickly. My goal is to help parents see the bigger picture more clearly. Families begin exploring private schools for many different reasons. Some parents are looking for smaller class sizes. Some are hoping for a more rigorous academic environment. Others are drawn to a particular educational philosophy or school culture. Sometimes families are looking for a place where their child might receive more individualized attention. Other times they're hoping to find a school community that aligns more closely with their family's values. All of these are thoughtful reasons to explore private school. But once families begin researching schools, an important question eventually appears. What kind of environment will actually help my child thrive? Because schools are not interchangeable. Each school has its own academic culture, its own classroom dynamics, its own expectations for students, and a student who thrives in one environment may struggle in another. That's why admissions process is not simply about gaining acceptance to a particular school. It's about identifying the environment where a student will truly flourish. One of the challenges families sometimes face early in the process is distinguishing between prestige and fit. Certain schools develop strong reputations. Parents hear about them from friends, they see them mentioned frequently in conversations about selective admissions, and it can become easy to assume that the most well-known schools must automatically be the best options. But reputation alone does not determine whether a school is the right environment for a particular student. A school that feels perfect for one child may not be the best environment for another. The most helpful shift families can make is moving from thinking about school names to thinking about school environments. Because once families begin asking questions about the environment rather than the reputation, they often gain much clearer insight into whether the school might truly fit their child. One way to begin thinking about school fit is to look at how learning actually happens inside the classroom. Some private schools are highly discussion-based. Students are expected to speak frequently in class, share ideas, and engage actively with their peers. For students who enjoy conversation, debate, and collaborative thinking, that kind of environment can feel energizing. Other schools emphasize independent analysis and writing. Students may spend more time reading complex texts, writing essays, and developing arguments. For students who enjoy quiet concentration and thoughtful reflection, that environment can feel very comfortable. Still, other schools emphasize hands-on learning. Students might participate in laboratory work, interdisciplinary projects, or problem-solving activities that connect multiple subjects together. For students who enjoy experimentation and exploration, that type of academic culture can feel especially engaging. None of these environments are inherently better than the others. They're simply different approaches to learning. The key question is which environment aligns most naturally with the student. I once worked with a family whose daughter was applying to several excellent private schools. On paper, she looked like a very strong candidate. Her grades were excellent, her testing was strong, she had thoughtful teacher recommendations. At first, her parents were focused on one very prestigious school they had heard about from several friends. But when we began looking more closely at the classroom culture of that school, something interesting emerged. The school placed a very strong emphasis on rapid-paced academic discussion. Students were expected to participate constantly in class conversations, but their daughter was a student who loved learning through quiet analysis and writing. She was incredibly thoughtful, but she preferred time to think deeply before speaking. When the family visited another school that emphasized independent thinking and writing, her entire demeanor changed. She became animated. She asked questions. She could immediately imagine herself learning in that environment. In the end, that school turned out to be a far better fit, and she absolutely thrived there. That experience illustrates something important. The strongest school on paper is not always the environment where a student will do their best learning. The right environment is the one where a student feels engaged, confident, and curious. Although every student is different, there are a few qualities that often align well with many private school environments. One of the most common is intellectual curiosity. Private schools frequently emphasize inquiry-based learning. Students are encouraged to ask questions, explore ideas, and engage deeply with academic material. Students who enjoy thinking about ideas and exploring topics in depth often feel very comfortable in these environments. Another quality that often helps students thrive is engagement with learning. Many private school classrooms involve active participation. Students are expected to share ideas, collaborate with classmates, and engage with teachers. Students who enjoy interacting with others about academic ideas often find these environments energizing. A third quality is academic independence. Private schools frequently encourage students to take increasing responsibility for their learning. Students may manage long-term projects, independent reading assignments, or research-based work. Students who enjoy taking ownership of their work often flourish in these environments. These qualities are not requirements for admission, but they are patterns admissions officers often notice among students who tend to do particularly well in private school settings. School visits and open houses can also provide valuable insight. When families visit a school, it can be helpful to observe more than just the facilities. Pay attention to the classroom atmosphere. How do students interact with teachers? Do students appear comfortable asking questions? Are classrooms discussion-based or lecture-based? How do students interact with one another? These observations often reveal far more about a school's culture than statistics or rankings. Many parents find it helpful to imagine their own child sitting in that classroom. Would this environment energize my child? Would my child feel comfortable contributing here? Those questions often reveal important clues about school fit. One quiet pressure many families feel during the admissions process is the belief that success means gaining admissions to the most prestigious school possible. But admission success is not really about prestige. The real goal is alignment between the student and the school environment, because when that alignment exists, something powerful happens. Students feel comfortable participating in class. They take intellectual risks. They explore new ideas, and over time, those experiences help shape how students see themselves as learners. That kind of growth is far more important than the name of the school on the acceptance letter. For many families, the most difficult part of the admissions process is simply understanding how all the pieces fit together. Grades, testing, recommendations, interviews, and school culture all interact in ways that can be difficult to interpret without experience. That's why many families choose to seek out guidance and resources as they navigate the admissions journey. Having a thoughtful framework for evaluating school fit and academic positioning can make a tremendous difference in how confidently families approach the process. When families begin the journey with clarity, the entire admissions experience often feels far less overwhelming. Private school can offer wonderful opportunities for many students, but the most important question is not simply whether private school is better. The most important question is whether a particular school environment is the right fit for your child. When families approach that question thoughtfully, the admissions process becomes much more meaningful. If you're early in the admissions journey and you're trying to understand how to approach the process in a more thoughtful and organized way, these are exactly the kinds of perspectives we explore here each week on Admissions Insights. So if this conversation was helpful, I'd invite you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes. Each week, we talk about testing strategies, school selection, admissions timelines, and how families can approach the private school process with more clarity and confidence. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next Admissions Insight.